All right, so it's officially being recorded now. So then basically, like Liam, since you're going first, you're making like the
You got to do disclaimers. You just started a recording.
yeah.
I could sue you.
I said before you started.
It's like, no, let me do the
Everything's
disclaimers.
on the record now.
Hello, welcome class. Hi. Disclaimers for today are anything you say will and can incriminate you in the court of law. So be careful and mindful. And everything we say are for educational purposes. That's all.
All right. All right. So Liam, you want to give an introduction, and then Taariq, you do like a rough closing since you're last.
All right, we're
all right. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Today will be Tuesday when you all are listening to this. The topics that I will be bringing to your attention is zodiac signs and compatibility between couples, family dinners and the years of 2020 and 2021, and religious views and being influenced by your peers. So zodiac signs and compatibility have been a thing since the first millennium. They have always kind of pivoted each other, people, towards where they think they belong in terms of couples, in terms of relationships, even as little as friendships. When I was involved in my first relationship, I got invested in the zodiac signs. I never knew that they were a thing. I never knew that they mattered. I only ever expected them to just be something that you were interested in and not necessarily an actual study. So I had no idea about this going in. So when I was involved in my first relationship, this girl that I was with was a Leo, which Leos are a fire sign. I'm expecting a round of applause after that. And me being a Capricorn, which is a ground sign, our compatibility that very strong. So I want to say I made that mistake, whereas I don't necessarily believe that compatibility has a strong grounding on what forms a relationship. I believe it's the personality alone. I believe it's what's in the heart, and that's it. And you can just do the compatibility for shits and giggles. However, a lot of the signs that I noticed in this Leo female that I was involved with, they have possessed a lot of toxic traits as a Leo. Overprotectiveness, stubbornness, very overly blunt, I guess you could say is the right word. And just a lot of red flags going around, and it kind of just made me feel uncomfortable in the relationship. And she started justifying her behavior with her zodiac sign. Like, for instance, she would be complaining or about this, that, or the other, and she would later apologize at least a few hours later, not even on the spot, because she was never able to admit when she's wrong. She would say, I'm sorry, this is just like the Leo personality in me. And the amount of times I just wanted to scream because I wrote this. I wrote, this was the topic of my paper, of the first paper that we were assigned in this class. It was justifying your behaviors based off of your zodiac signs. And I really wanted to do more of this. So that's why I chose this as one of my topics. Because it's very interesting. It's very just trying to prove to yourself and proving to others that zodiac signs do in fact have an impact on relationships, because people do genuinely think that compatibility between their signs have a major impact on relationships. I'm one of those people that think I'm kind of in the middle. I'm one of those divisive thinkers. So I'll think this for a minute and then I'll kind of pivot towards a complete opposite opinion. Like, yeah, I do believe that zodiac signs are do kind of make sense and how they coincide with relationships. But this is why I've always had bad experiences with Leos. This is why I don't necessarily believe that zodiac signs are as big in relationships as people make them out to be. Now, with all that going on, all of the arguments, all of the unnecessary fights, bring me to family dinners of 2020 and 2021. Ever since 2020 rolled around, families have been separated. There are so many things that have hit the fan: the coronavirus, politics, religious views, the whole 9 yards, everything that you could or could not want to be interested in. This is what has been discussed at your family dinners. And no matter what, it's always going to be discussed, because regardless of the amount of topics that you bring to the plate, whether it's how you're doing in school, what are you looking for regards to a job, what's your dream job looking like, when are you set to graduate, it's always about COVID. It's always about COVID. It's always about, what did Trump do wrong? It's all about what did Biden do wrong. And when I first registered to vote, I was a registered independent. I am a very two sides of the same coin kind of guy. So I'll look at both views. I do my own research. I do not religiously watch the news on TV, because whenever I do, it scares me as to what I see. And it just baffles me at the amount of times I see people arguing just about political views and just about COVID in general, whether or not to get vaccinated, or if you're unvaccinated, why are you unvaccinated? And these kind of conversations, these high class problems that we're facing right now, they have a big deal as to why families are hating each other. Like, someone could come up to me and say that they're a Trump supporter, and then the guy Jeff behind me, I'm just making up a random guy's name, they'll say, oh, I automatically hated him because he's a Trump supporter. But you don't understand why. You just assume that just because he's a Trump supporter that he's all evil. Same thing for a Biden supporter, vice versa. But that's where I come from when I talk about family dinners. I never want to be the one to bring up politics. I never am one to bring up politics. But when I do, it's very brief. It's a very 1 to 2 minute statement. And I'll usually say, well, that's all I have to say on that. And if you have any other questions, don't ask me, because I'm probably going to say something that you don't like. That's just how it is, because everybody disagrees with each other at the end of the day. And when I talk about other people disagreeing with each other, that usually brings me to when I say religious views are also a big topic. Religious views being influenced by your peers is my third topic of discussion for today's podcast. When I was young, I had nothing to believe in. So my mom wanted to get me baptized just to make sure that I did have something to believe in, which I appreciate, and I understand that now, because I believe that she didn't want me to have like the thought of me being alone and nothing really to turn to, and like no higher power to turn to for comfort. And so as I got older, as I progressed through high school, I was conflicted a lot with my religious views. I lost my best friend when I was very young. I lost my grandfather to leukemia. And so a lot of these life-altering events made me question, well, why is this so-called higher power putting all these negative events in my head? Like, is he trying to make me weak? Is he trying like intentionally to put me through this kind of hell, like my own personal hell on earth? Like, what is he trying to do? Like, what is his story? What is his purpose? So I decided to pick up a few crystals and study those for a while. I know paganism is just sort of maybe a forgotten religion. It's not really talked about. So that's just why I say it's forgotten. I know it's not. But I just don't remember the last person that I talked to and said, oh yeah, I study that. But yeah, so I picked that up for a little bit. And when I talked to my grandmother about it, who my grandparents, they're very diehard Catholic. They're very to the church, to the Bible, to Jesus, you know. And so when I talked to her about what I was studying and the religion that I've been participating in, she got upset. And I don't really understand why, given that it's my choice, it's my right to choose what I want to believe in, as long as it only brings positivity, which of course it does. I mean, everything can bring negativity depending on how you handle it. But I think that when she got upset with me, I didn't really hear her out, and I should have. However, she would kind of say, "Oh, look at like my baptized grandson." Like I want to say she was kind of guilt tripping me into like the decision that I made. Like she was trying to make me feel bad. She said, this is where you came from, like you always said that you wanted to go to church and like you always said this or that or the other. And I'm like, yeah, I did used to say that I wanted to go to church. And I don't even remember the last time I went to church. I honestly don't. I think the last time I went to church outside of high school was, I don't even know when. I want to say it was when I was still in high school, one year for Easter. I have no idea when I went. But being influenced by family, being influenced by your friends is something that I had to be very careful of, given the fact that it was very hard for me to make my own decisions at one point, and I never knew how to make my own decisions. I always had to have someone stick up for me, which I know is negative, but at the end of the day, like you gotta think, oh, well, where did he come from? Like what was his life like growing up? I hated the idea of confrontation. I hated everything about that. So whenever I was confronted about, whatever, I would shut down. So this kind of goes into the same thing with that. I never knew how to stick up for myself. I never knew how to stand front of what I believe in and why I believe it. So being influenced by your peers is a big deal in my book. I always try to keep those views to myself, and I've learned a lot more about, why I do what I do, why I study what I study, and the whole purpose behind it, the roots, where I came from, everything about that, everything necessary. So that's why I hardly ever talk about religious views. That's why I hardly ever talk political views, because regardless of who you talk to, you're always going to be influenced in some way unless you know how to stand your ground, which thankfully I finally knew how to do. So those are enough of my topics. I believe we're going to pick it up with Taariq.
Actually gonna be me.
Or Nicole.
Up. So my 3 topics are actually race, material culture, and socialization by my peers, which is the one thing I kind of share with you, the last one. So first one is going to be race, which is basically just, how people perceive you based on your physical characteristics. And the incident that came to my mind was in elementary school, like lower elementary. It's CB Lamb, if anyone knows it, in New Jersey. I was outside during recess with other kids, and I was like kind of like playing jump rope. I was literally with one of the kids who was like in special needs. He had like some type of learning disorder. I didn't know what it was specifically. I wasn't friends with him. We just happened to be playing with like the jump ropes and twisting around. And I just remember he asked me, "Can I ask you a question?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Why are you black?" I was like, "What?" And it threw me for a loop, especially because like I was in elementary school. I haven't like had like these in-depth conversation or anything like that. But it really just threw me off like, well, like why are you black? I'm white. Like why are you this? Like I don't remember the exact words, but I remember that specific part of the question that he asked. And I was kind of a little bit of an emotional kid. I am still emotional. And so I got like thrown off by it, and I stopped and I went over to the teachers who basically was always there supervising the special needs kids, and I told her what question he asked me, and I obviously like seemed distressed by it, and she said he doesn't really understand like what that means, and he's not trying to mean anything rude by it. He just doesn't understand the context of that. And then basically just like, oh, he's not trying to be mean, and then just to go off and playing whatever, either keep going playing with him or not. And I just felt kind of not like taken care of, because like she wasn't rude to me, but the thing is she was putting a lot of emphasis on his difference, his needs, of like his special needs and might understand this, and like I didn't understand that fully as a kid. But like you also could have, I'm obviously distressed, comforted me as a kid as like, oh, this is the reason behind it. um but I recognize that like this may hurt your feelings. I recognize that you're feeling this, kind of like supporting me, helping me in that moment. And there was nothing. It was like, oh, well, I'm assigned to take care of the special needs kid, so I'm only going to do the special needs kid, and all the other kids, I'll do the bare minimum. And that this is one of like the few instances when like I've had the benefit of not really having many race related interactions with kids, well, negative specifically. But it's one of the few instances that has like really stuck out to me. Like, oh, you're different. Not like, I mean, every school I went to except for high school, always, white majority. So you're aware of it, but you like, it's just like always a current in the back of your mind, but it's like one of the few times where it jumps up forward to like the front. Yeah. So that was my experience with race. Material culture, which is, like the physical things that are a part of your culture. I actually think it's interesting because I have it's almost the absence of material culture. My family's from Jamaica on both sides. Um, but like all my like the generation above me basically moved to America just because my great grandmother moved there first, and they moved here afterwards to get other opportunities and stuff. And my grandparents still live in Jamaica. And even though my family is from Jamaica, and my parents and the aunt and uncles lived in Jamaica, so they're very familiar with the culture. I think also part of the fact that my mom is a single mother, is that like I have no actual like in-depth connection to my Jamaican side, and especially in material culture. And even as an American kid, because I grew up in America, I am American too. The only like material stuff we have, like tradition that I can like hold on to, is like the only two things I ever think of is the Jamaican flag, just because every now and again, like my mom just has like in her car and stuff like that, and then Christmas trees, which is like and the ornaments that you put on it, like you made one in elementary school, you put on the tree, and um, that's like, oh, I can connect that. It's not just like a red ball on a tree; it's like an actual like personalized thing. But other than that, there's no actual like physical thing to hold on to for the material culture, even non-material culture. It's just there's not much substance. And I was surprised. I think I kind of realized that like also possibly because of the fact my mom's a single mother, having to take me care of me and my brother, is that she basically just doesn't have time to like always to like talk about these things or just share those stuff with us. Any kind of like introduction we had was more of circumstance, like, oh, we visit Jamaica, and then I'd learn or get something from there when we were visiting, or when we have a family gathering, they're telling a story, oh, I get some information from there, or food she's cooking that's specifically Jamaican, I'll get something from there. But it's never like just casual talk about it. It has to be something to like um to basically initiate it. Like it doesn't happen just initially. It's not like a part of life. And that's something I've definitely felt. Um yeah, just like the other families, you have like maybe like one small thing that like you do that's like unique to your family, that's like this tradition you keep on doing. And we don't really have that like at all. Like we don't always gather during Christmas or always gather during Thanksgiving. We don't like do something. There's no like knickknacks or like physical things like, oh, this is a thing related to Jamaican culture. American culture doesn't really have tons of those things, and if anything, it's holiday related. So that's one kind of loss I feel is unfortunate that I have um in my life. And then my last topic is socialization by my peers. And one thing I think find is interesting, which is also a huge thing with Gen Z in general, is joking about mental illness. It's definitely we've been socialized, at least by our peers, to think that like it's basically fine. Whether you think it's good or not way to cope with it, we've basically been we've basically made and like kind of like all quietly agreed like, okay, joking about this with each other and stuff is like it's fine. And so I mean, whenever you go out, you actually like meet or like talk to somebody or make a joke with somebody who doesn't have the same issues, like honestly, seriously, mental health issues, and you're making these dark jokes, and you're like, this is this is probably kind of effed up. Like, and like there's that look you get when you're making dark jokes with people who get it and then people who don't. It's just awkward sometimes. Um, but like at least with my generation of my friends, we've kind of like all agreed that like we've all happened to gone through some stuff in our lives, and we also have like mental health issues like depression or anxiety, and so we just joke about it. We joke about even like this or suicidal feelings that we have, because it's like one way to cope about it and also to talk about it without making it awkward and serious. I mean, you have those moments make it awkward and serious, but sometimes you're just having a feeling and you just want to get it out. You just want to kind of talk about it, and making a joke about it the way to talk about it. um so those are three things I think are related, are good examples of socialization of sociology in my life. All right. Mm. And Justin, you're up next.
Yep, my three topics are government, shelter, and also socialization by my peers. So the first one being government, I am a military child. My mom, my dad, and my stepmom are all in or were in. My grandfather on my dad's side was in the Marines. My dad on my mom's side was in the Army. So all I've ever really known is military. And that's been a good thing and a bad thing. Good thing is knowing that no matter where you go, you're always going to have people there around you that know they may not be the same age as you, considering it was always hard for me to make friends because of all things that I things I go through don't really relate to others. But knowing that there's somebody gonna be there, whether it's next door if you're on base, or whether you have to drive a little bit for them to get to you, but you do know that somebody's always gonna be there for you. But on the bad side, it's very stressful being a military child, considering that you don't know that so my mom is security forces, which is like a military cop. And so it's been a lot of long nights of somebody doing something extremely stupid. I'll give you an example of the worst one. Um, some I'm pretty sure they were Marines who decided they wanted to have a snowball fight on the gun range while people were getting ready to shoot. So you can guess how long she was at work for that one. She almost all night. And when you go there knowing that something may happen, it's hard to get quality time with parents sometimes because it's almost always work, because there's always busy, but it's definitely helped shape me, especially with my work ethic, so that I don't leave until something gets done correctly. And with being military child comes different places I have lived, and that's where shelter comes in. And there have definitely been good places that I've gotten to live, and then there's been bad places that I've gotten to live. I've gotten to live in all different types of the United States, ranging from Florida to Idaho to now in Jersey, and a bunch of pit stops in between. And you definitely feel different dynamics when you go to different places, because places are different depending on where they go. In Florida, it's leisurely. It's where we were, there's a bunch of retired people. When you go up to Idaho, it's farmland and get your hands dirty. And now in Jersey, it's, I hope I don't get jumped for saying this, it's more get up in your face and defend yourself more. And with all the pit stops in between, you had New Mexico, which I don't remember a lot of, considering I was still young then. All I remember is that it was middle of nowhere and it really wasn't all that good. You had Ohio, which was meh. Just it's meh. It's Ohio. I mean, you don't really expect much there. And then you had living in Maryland, which I told the story of how that was last time in class. Quick recap: drug dealers on both ends of the street, gangs all around, even in the schools. Very rough time in my life to be who I was, but it taught me a lot. I learned how to read people and learned when to say something and when not to say something. I learned that I have to actually do stuff so that I know that I'm in charge of myself and what happens to me when people aren't around. I'm in charge of what happens to me in certain times. So that's definitely helped me. And then third one is socialization by my peers. So when I do make friends before I move around and all that, they tend to be good friends, because I still talk to friends I had in Idaho. I still talk to some friends I had in Florida before I moved. And it's definitely taught me to be a good friend, knowing that you may not be able to be there physically for them in person, but you're still going to be there for them. And they've practically been there for more than half my life, probably 3/4 of my life. And I've relied on them a lot on some of the nights when I felt alone based on things that were happening, and they were the only ones that were there for me. So friends almost help shape me more than family was, ones that weren't in the military, because I never really felt super comfortable talking to my family about certain things. But friends is completely different because you trust them. I mean, if you keep in contact with them as you move around the United States and they're still there for you, then you know you have good friends that you're able to talk to. And they've helped me through a lot of things when I was in dark times in my life, and vice versa. So friends definitely helped me along my way about being who I am today and about being there for people. Taariq, please be careful when you do this.
Yo, huh?
Oh my God, you're driving.
Yes, sir. But it's okay because I am a master at multitasking. Like, you feel me? Did you not see what's going on in the background? What the fuck? I mean, what the heck? Anyway, but hi, how is everyone? Today we are talking about. Well, honestly, I kind of have the same as Nicole, who has the culture material, and the other one I have is social stratification. But they kind of go hand in hand in a way. So I'm gonna do them at the same time. So all right, check it. So one of the things that like I see a lot, and that well everyone sees a lot, is like the whole, I guess should say social media culture and how easy it influences everything. Like for example, when it comes to material culture, like before the coronavirus or the pandemic happened in quarantine, where everybody was locked in the house and everyone's on their cell phones, shopping on things such as shoes, clothes, and like I guess computers and cameras, like those things weren't like as high as they are today. Like the prices for things that you would have might have paid for a year or a year and a half ago. I mean, of course, you also got to remember inflation, true, but also part of that is also because you're paying for popularity. Like you can't even before you could go on sneakers and win a raffle as a regular person. You can't do that anymore. Like now you have to be like I don't even know how to do it because I don't get accepted. I be trying though, but you can barely get sneakers the way you want anymore. Clothing is like extremely high price now, like $100 overpriced. But you still have like your cheaper designers like Coach and but nobody really wants that unless it's like for a calm outing. But like perfect example, Louis Vuitton. You feel me? And Off White. Um, you know, the price is going crazy. I can't think of the guy's name right now, but after his passing, the day of his passing, the prices went up, I think like by $200 just because he passed away. Like it makes no sense, just because you're paying for that premium now. But that, and on top of that, with the whole social media influences with cancel culture. And like that's where it starts to get into social stratification a little bit because it's like cancel culture is like how easily like people could be like, all right, nah, we're not doing that. Now, granted, some of them are valid, like for example, the baby. Now you draw, so he needed a timeout. I mean, well, he was doing too much, so he needed a timeout. He needed to think about what he did. Granted, even though he didn't learn anything at all, but he needed time to learn what he did. He didn't use his time wisely. But things like cancel culture be canceling simple people for no reason. I mean, people might call me, like crazy for saying it, but like a person that got canceled that I think actually makes a good points 70% of the time is Lil Boosie. And Lil Boosie been canceled for like, I don't even know how long. But like sometimes he does say very outlandish things. I will agree. He says very outlandish things sometimes. But on the other times, he be making very valid points. And I feel like he's one of the people that's like just always getting canceled. And Lil Duval and Charlemagne the God, like he's like real knowledgeable people. You feel me? Getting canceled because they said something that doesn't go with the opinion. And there's more out there too that I can't really think of like off the top of my head. Because granted, I'm driving and there's a lot going on. But you feel me? I can like that's like one of the things that I feel like affects our society in a whole. Like canceling people because of you're not going with the popular opinion or the popular thing, or you're not agreeing with, or you don't match up with the view that certain people have of you. Honestly, or yeah, like pretty much that. Like, and a perfect example is like when people don't agree on the same terms. Like, perfect example is like I had a conversation with this little girl I was just doing this photo shoot with. She was like, granted, I never really talked to her deep beforehand. Usually I do, but like this time it was kind of different. She was paying more money, so I didn't really care. So she was talking, and then what she said, I can't even think. Oh, she was like, "Oh, I can't wear like it was a certain type of jacket or something," and she was like, "Because it doesn't match the style." And I was like, "Bro, it's a jacket. Like, I know what you're saying, but like, it matches your color, it matches the setting. You feel me? But because you want to pose a certain way, you don't want to wear it. Like, nah, it's cool." So she was like, "Oh, you about to be canceled off this list." Like, what the fuck? One, what list? Two, why am I being canceled? Because I think the jacket will look nice on you. But I'm saying something that you don't think. But anyway, we still did the shoot anyway. She just wasted her breath. But granted, it was something that was kind of like, yeah, like that's annoying to always have around, I guess. But that, and then another thing, but another, this is one like I kind of agree with and disagree with, and it's like the red flag thing. Like I agree with the red flag idea and concept because it's about like it makes people more aware of like out of like the mistreatment. That's the perfect word for it, mistreatment. Like if somebody's doing something wrong to you, and or if like let's see, somebody did something wrong. Like a perfect example, I seen an Instagram post, and it was like, oh, if the guy doesn't, if the guy doesn't think you're one of the best females, like out of like, what was it? If you don't think we're one of the best females, like out of all the females, and you're in a relationship, like that's a red flag. Like he should be your number one supporter. Like, and I agree with that. Like that's a valid point. Like if you don't have that in your relationship, like you should seek that. And if you're not getting that, you need to find someone else. Simple, right? But then you also have the other side where I disagree with, where it's like the outlandish things. I say outlandish a lot, so I'm gonna think of a different word. The very extreme. Nah, that doesn't hit as hard. Whatever. We're gonna roll with outlandish. So outlandish, right? So all the outlandish things. So like say, um, damn, like another post I saw was perfect. It's like, oh, if the guy doesn't pay for everything you guys do, like it's a red flag. That's cap. Like if you're in a relationship, like you should be supporting each other. Like the guy should be paid for most of the things, cool, yeah. But every now and then don't hurt, you feel me? You're not his child, he's not taking care of you, you're his partner. You feel me? Like things like that. Like, but like for the most part, it's really, I guess the word for it is say a neutral concept because it benefits in the one aspect, but then it kind of also like supports the like negative side of what's the word for it? I don't want to say relationships because it's more than just relationships. Like I guess society for real. Like things that really don't matter that people shouldn't focus on. Like that's the perfect way to put it. Like but then my last um my last topic is social relativism. There we go, got it out. Social relativism. Like what I mean by that is like so like when I do a lot of shoots, like I try to like switch up like the feeling that I'm going for, so that it doesn't seem like I'm always shooting the same kind of way. So a lot of times like on I'll go on Pinterest, or I'll go on, I mean, like people don't really use Tumblr, but I go on Tumblr sometimes, Twitter. Um, there's this app called Guru Shots, Adobe Discover. There's a lot of people who post that, and it's like you can pick categories of like cultures and like of things that you want to shoot. So even if you're like, say, in New Jersey or Philadelphia, you can still get the same feeling as someone who's in Asia or in Japan. I mean, I don't fucking know. But you get what I mean. Like in a different country. So like, so say for example, I'm shooting a Puerto Rican lady, and she wants to have like a very I want to say festive feeling in her picture. So like I'm gonna go on either Pinterest, Twitter, or Adobe Discover and look for like I don't want to use that word, but I want to say like Mexican like type pictures, like very festive pictures. So like I know when I'm gonna go on Google and when I look for places, I'm gonna type in very like live and active places to go to. And then from there it's gonna show me what places to go to. Then I'm gonna go out there myself before even this photo shoot and like get the feeling of the area. For example, like I went to New York and to Chinatown for the very first time in like 2 weeks ago. Blew my mind. Like just like I like seeing it on TV is cool, but like granted, I still feel like it would be better if it wasn't like before like the pandemic, like post. I mean, not post, but pre-corona, because like I feel like it would be more live. But even then, it was still like very like I don't want to say actiony, but like it was a lot of lights. It was a lot of like it was a lot of people around. Like even though they're all maxed up, like hidden, like but I feel like that made it like more like I guess aesthetic. Like it gave like a hidden identity. Like no need like just faceless people here. But I guess faceless is not really a word, is it? I don't know. But faceless people, like they're hidden and it kind of added to the vibe like, for me at least. But like just like going out and doing new things. Like I have a friend and it's kind of like he does the same thing every weekend. Or not every weekend, but every occasion. Like if it's a birthday or if it's a celebration, like say somebody got a promotion, it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna go here and we're gonna do that. Like he goes to the same hookah bar and then drink, smoke hookah, go home. And it's like, bro, nobody wants to do that all day. Let's go to Chinatown or for something, or let's go to DC. You know, let's see what that atmosphere is like. It's only like what, a 3 hour drive, bro. It's not that far. You feel me? We could get in and out. We could be there in a day. You know. So I feel like, but like on another note, on top of that, it's like well, also social media and TikTok, which is the other benefit of TikTok, is that people see more than what they seen before. And like now with the new Instagram and their new like programming and their database, like they actually filter suggestions into your like feed, which is kind of annoying because it feels like they're spying on you, but they filter suggestions into your feed. So say if you were looking at something, I don't know, say for example, like for example, I was looking at Japanese sports cars. And now when I get suggestions like of pages that I don't follow, they're like Japanese pages, like or at least like a Japanese person's page and like their car and then like their whole like page and their description and all that. But it's kind of like I feel like that's cool because now you're reaching out to different sides of the world that you never really had a chance to get to. So in conclusion, really, it's kind of like you gotta have a limit to what you want to get into, because like
The frozen Taariq.
hello.
All right, you're back. You're good.
So in conclusion, it's like you kind of gotta have a limit of like what you want to get into because it's like it's because it's kind of like you have to have. Hold on, let me restart. Sorry, that just blew me. But in conclusion, it's kind of like you need to know like I don't want to say need to know, but it's like it's very hard to see what is actually beneficial and when it's actually like negative for you because everything just be blowing at you at once. So the red flag, like for example, the red flag, now that's both neutral and beneficial. I mean, it's both negative and the positive for you. Like you can find out things that you might have never known that was bad for you that has happened to you before, and you're like, wow, like nah, that's actually true. Like I should probably start doing this more or start looking for this more now that this is like, I know this is negative and I never really paid attention to it. Or now you see something that's like, oh, everybody's saying this is negative, even though you might not really agree with it. Everybody's saying this is negative, so I'm gonna follow this. So it's kind of like that on that topic, but you also have that same side of coming into the cancel culture where they kind of intertwine because you could get red flagged and canceled at the same time. I don't really know the whole logistics of that. I'm not really deep into it. But you can see somebody get to catch a red flag and get canceled. The cancel culture, I feel like it's what's the perfect word for it? Childish, honestly, because it's like, why are you really concerned about what that person is doing? Like, granted, yeah, they said or did whatever, but you have the ability to not pay attention to it anymore. Like, you don't disagree with it, you can't change it personally. So you can say your piece if you feel like it, and then move on, or don't say your piece and move on. Because at the end of the day, the person really isn't going to care unless it's somebody that's really close to them. Then they're going to be like, okay, I think I should change something in what I'm doing. So that, and then for the final, it's kind of like social relativism, like understanding your surroundings. Like for what Justin said, like about moving to different areas and like how that could like being, especially in what was it, Justin, Ohio? You said
Yeah.
Ohio, when he was in Ohio, and how like that like kind of affected him. It was like he went to no surrounding and he tried and he realized like this isn't for me. Like this is not my area. But it's still that aspect of like I tried. You feel me? I tried to be out here. I know this is not for me. I'm not coming back. Instead of already canceling it out from whatever may have been brought up in any kind of conversation or social media posts or whatever you may seen it, whatever you heard or wherever it was at. You get it? All right, work. So this was our, podcast, featuring Harmony. I like the V, it's a nice little V. It got love. But anyway, that's beside you see I'm matching? I ain't even peep. That's crazy though. But anyway, this is all anybody want to say anything? Y'all just gonna stay muted. Y'all don't want to do no closed captions with me. All
Well,
right,
I
it's
don't
cool.
know
It's
when
cool.
you
Nah.
What do you want me to say, bro?
Yeah, you were just vibing, talking while
you're ready to give
I
a
was
whole
talking while
lesson.
driving. Yeah. I even made it home and everything. Look, I'm parked up, neighbors waving and shit, playing basketball. Look. Goofy. He can't even make it. See, now you fucking up because you hit the car. Now I gotta come out. Can you hurry up? I gotta talk to these kids.
All right, so yeah, this is our social podcast. I think we had like a lot of like, I mean, a few of us had like the same like terms, and then like even if we didn't have the same terms, our stories kind of like related a lot. And I mean, it's like kind of obvious. I mean, we're around the same ages, living in the same areas, having like same like overlaps of like experiences and stuff. It's like it's the human experience. So yeah, and I mean, if you guys are okay with it, I'm gonna leave this public on YouTube. I'm gonna upload it to YouTube and then give a link. So I'll leave it public. Whoever vibes with this, vibes with this, and I think it was a good like project to do.
This was very interesting. I had a lot of fun with this.
Ditto. Very fun.
Yeah.
Very interesting, intriguing to hear other
So
people's
are we really
stories.
doing like?
All right, so I'm
So
gonna
we're
end it
uploading
here
this to
and
YouTube.
I'll upload it there. Okay.
Hi, YouTube.
Bye.